So let's start with, of course, Tom Brady. So I'm about to utter words I did not think I would utter on Carving It Up Live until I was like 30. Okay, maybe not 30. Tom Brady is retiring. After 22 seasons with the New England Patriots and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady announced on Tuesday on Instagram and on Twitter that he is hanging up the cleats. And so, you think about Tom Brady's career, and there's a million different ways that you could go. But first of all, you want to talk about his accomplishments, right? Because, obviously you got to be great on the field and this and that, but numbers, while they don't tell the whole story, they certainly tell a story, and a pretty big one, especially as it pertains to Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. In his career, he won 243 games, completed 7,263 passes, threw for 84,520 yards and 624 touchdowns. He played in 10 Super Bowls, is a 7-time Super Bowl champion, and is a 5-time Super Bowl MVP. All of the above are NFL records. Not to mention that he has 15 Pro Bowls on his resume and 3 regular season MVPs. How he doesn't have more, dunno. But when you think about Tom Brady, and we all know he's the GOAT. I mean, that's widely known. Nobody denies that. But when you think about Tom Brady amongst other GOATs, his journey to becoming the GOAT could not be more different than the other ones in that category of greatest of all time. Wayne Gretzky was so good as a kid. Parents booed him as a kid. Serena Williams had articles written about her by the LA Times when she was 12 years old. Michael Phelps was dubbed by the International Olympic Committee as a prodigy before he could even get a driver's license. Even if you want to say, well, Michael Jordan was doubted early on because he didn't make the high school varsity team as whatever he was, a sophomore. He was still drafted 3rd overall in 1984 by the Chicago Bulls. And by, the first practice, Bulls coaches and executives were like, yep, that's the best player on the team. He's amazing. Tom Brady was in high school at one point, the backup quarterback on a junior varsity team that went 0-8 and scored no touchdowns. That's where Tom Brady was at in his younger years. He goes to Michigan. He's battling for the starting job. He finally gets it his junior year. Has a lot of fourth quarter comebacks. Obviously, that trend became apparent as the years and decades went by. And had a pretty good college career at Michigan. He wasn't a bum. Wasn't, out of this world. Wasn't like, Peyton Manning or anybody like that. But he was good in college at Michigan. So in the 2000 draft, he was drafted like Michael Jordan and all these other great players. 199th overall in the 6th round. 6 other quarterbacks were taken above him. They made a whole documentary about that 10 years ago. You add to the fact that his rookie year, you know what his stats were? 1 for 3, 6 yards. It's the only NFL action he got. He was Drew Bledsoe's backup on a 5-11 Patriots team, the first year under Bill Belichick. In 2001, in week 2, the Patriots were playing against the New York Jets. And Drew Bledsoe got hit on the sideline. It was not a career-threatening injury. It was a life-threatening injury. Thank God above that Drew Bledsoe is, doing well today. But it took a life-threatening injury to the starting quarterback for the gates to be opened for Tom Brady to come in. And he never gave the starting quarterback job up in New England again. He led the Patriots, along with an outstanding defense led by Teddy Bruschi, Willie McGinnis, Ty Law, to a Super Bowl title, the Patriots' first title in their history over the heavily favored St. Louis Rams, the greatest show on turf. And before the last drive of that game, the game is tied Rams 17, Patriots 17. And the great, God rest his soul, John Madden, who was calling the game with the great, God rest his soul, Pat Summerall. John Madden said when the Patriots got the ball, I'm playing for overtime. This is a young quarterback. I don't want to put him in position to screw it up and us lose the game and the Super Bowl. Tom Brady goes right down the field, and Adam Vinatieri, the clutchest kicker in NFL history, hits the game-winning field goal at the gun, and the Patriots win 20-17. John Madden, after that kick went through, said, what Tom Brady just did gave me goosebumps. And there were many of those to come. After a 9-7 season in 2002, Brady led the Patriots in 2003 to their second Super Bowl title with yet another game-winning drive over the Carolina Panthers, capped off by a game-winning field goal by Adam Vinatieri. And Brady won for the second time the Super Bowl MVP. In 2004, he led the Patriots to back-to-back Super Bowl titles, this time over the Philadelphia Eagles, and he made Deion Branch the Super Bowl MVP. And so, over the next few years, Tom appeared in Super Bowls, Super Bowl 42, Super Bowl 46, both games against the New York Giants, fell short in both. Matter of fact, in 2007, he led a Patriots team to 18-0 through 50 touchdown passes and won the league MVP, but came up short, did not play well against a great Giants defense led by Justin Tuck and Michael Strahan, with Eli Manning capping off a game-winning drive in that game in Arizona. But Tom won some MVPs. He appeared in Super Bowls, and the Patriots won a lot, but ultimately they would end up coming up short in the playoffs many times, either to Peyton Manning, in one case to, Mark Sanchez beat the Patriots. They went one and done in 2010 when Brady won the MVP that season. And so we roll around to 2014. Tom Brady at this point is a young 37 years of age. The Patriots played the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 4 on a Monday Night Football game at Arrowhead Stadium. They lost 41-14, and Tom Brady was abysmal. He got benched for Jimmy Garoppolo. And after the game, and all throughout the week, reporters and the media was like, that's it. Tom's done. 37. He's old. That's it. That was awful. One reporter even had the guts to ask Bill Belichick, hey, coach, you considering a quarterback change? And Belichick, who personally, professionally, yes, but personally didn't have the greatest relationship with Brady, was like, what are you talking about? No, they're not going to bench Brady. And the Patriots proceeded to go 10-2 the rest of the season, beat the Ravens and the Colts to get to Super Bowl 49, where they took on, at the time, the defending Super Bowl champions, the Seattle Seahawks, who had one of the greatest defenses of all time, the Legion of Boom. Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Bobby Wagner, Hall of Fame players. They were down 10 in the fourth quarter to Seattle, and the Patriots looked dead in the water. Tom led back-to-back scoring drives, taking a 4-point lead. That game, of course, was capped off by the iconic Malcolm Butler interception at the one when Seattle infamously did not give the ball to Marshawn Lynch. So against one of the greatest defenses we've ever seen, down 10 in the fourth quarter, Tom Brady led back-to-back scoring drives, winning the game, winning his fourth Super Bowl title after a 10-year drought, and winning Super Bowl MVP for the third time. A couple seasons later, he was suspended for the first 4 games for this little weird scandal called Deflategate, in which the NFL basically said, Tom, we're holding you responsible in part for the alleged deflation, the alleged deflated footballs in the AFC title game 2 years prior against the Indianapolis Colts. Tom was suspended for the first 4 games of that season. He came back, led the Patriots to an 11-1 record from that point on and to the playoffs. They crushed the Houston Texans. They crushed the Pittsburgh Steelers to get to Super Bowl 51. Tom Brady at this point is now 39 years old and facing the Atlanta Falcons, a team that is red hot. Matt Ryan's the MVP. Julio Jones is the best receiver in football. Dan Quinn's defense is flying all over the field. And Tom Brady was straight trash in the first half of that game. Matter of fact, he threw a pick six to put the Patriots down in a 21-0 hole. Of course, as we all know, the Falcons scored a touchdown. Little pass by Matt Ryan to Tevin Coleman, who got in the end zone for a touchdown to put the Atlanta Falcons up 28-3. And we all know what happened after that. A Tom Brady scoring drive, a touchdown pass to James White, cut the score to 28-9. Patriots got the ball back, drove down the field. They kicked a field goal, 28-12. After a strip sack of Matt Ryan by Dante Hightower, Brady drove him down the field on a short field, touchdown pass to Danny Amendola, 2-point conversion, James White, and it's an 8-point game, 28-20. After a series of penalties knocked the Falcons out of field goal range, Tom Brady led a 91-yard scoring drive, capped off by a James White touchdown run, and Brady throwing a pass to Danny Amendola for the 2-point conversion, which knotted the game at 28-all. And in overtime, he led a 75-yard drive, capped off by another James White touchdown. And the Patriots came back from the largest deficit in Super Bowl history. The previous record had been 10. The previous record for deficit overcome in a Super Bowl was 10 points. By the way, Brady did that too. Patriots more than doubled that. They were down 25, came back and won on the back of Tom Brady, who won his 5th Super Bowl title and his 4th MVP. And I said at the time, that cemented him, I think we all acknowledged, as the greatest quarterback of all time in the history of football, the history of the National Football League, any way you want to slice it. That win over Atlanta cemented him as the GOAT quarterback. In 2017, at the age of 40 years old, okay, Tom Brady led the Patriots to a 13-3 record. They dominated the Tennessee Titans. They barely survived the Jacksonville Jaguars. By the way, that's another comeback game where Brady was down by 10 in the fourth quarter to a great Jags defense with a stitched throwing hand, and they won that game. They took on the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl, and Tom Brady set the record for the most passing yards in not just a Super Bowl, but a playoff game with 505 yards. However, the Patriots defense gave up 41 to a backup quarterback in Nick Foles, and they fell short 41-33. The following season, 2018, at the age of 41, Tom led the Patriots back to the playoffs. A dominant win over the Los Angeles Chargers and a comeback win over the Kansas City Chiefs, in which in overtime on the game-winning drive, in which they beat Kansas City on the road, Brady converted not 1, not 2, but 3 third down and 10s. And in the Super Bowl against the LA Rams, Tom, though he played poorly, that's the worst Super Bowl Tom Brady ever played in. What'd he do? Led yet another game-winning drive to win Super Bowl 53 over the Rams, to win his 6th Super Bowl title, which surpassed him above Charles Haley for the most rings ever won by a player. And in my view, I said at the time, he's the GOAT quarterback. The 6th ring made him the greatest player in NFL history. The GOAT player. In 2019, he had a down year. Only threw 24 touchdowns in all 16 games. And the Patriots got eliminated. They pulled the Dallas Cowboys. They were one and done in the playoffs. They lost in an upset to the Tennessee Titans in what would prove to be Tom's final game as a Patriot. And it was at that point that the 42-year-old quarterback was dubbed finished. Over the hill. He's washed. Go retire. Tom said, no. I'm done in New England. I'm not done playing football. He goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a franchise that had not been to the playoffs in a decade and a half, and a franchise that had the worst winning percentage of any team in the history of the NFL. They were coming off a 2019 season in which they went 7-9, despite having 2,000-yard receivers. Tom Brady showed up, threw 40 touchdown passes at the age of 43, led the Bucs to the playoffs, and led them to not one, not two, but 3 straight road wins in the playoffs over the second-ranked defense in football, the Washington football team. The week after, against a team in the New Orleans Saints that had crushed them in the previous 2 meetings that season, they won on the road at Drew Brees in what ended up being Drew's final NFL game at the Superdome. In the NFC Championship game against the MVP Aaron Rodgers, Tom outplayed Rodgers in the frozen tundra at Lambeau Field and won that game. And in Super Bowl 55 against the defending Super Bowl champs Kansas City Chiefs, Tom Brady led a Buccaneers thrashing of Kansas City to win his 7th Super Bowl title and his 5th Super Bowl MVP. And I said on the show a year ago, I will reiterate it today. That title solidified Brady as the greatest athlete in the history of American team sports.